Okay, please have a seat for this final session. Thank you. So we're going to have first two plenary sessions on two emerging and very hot topics. We'll start with integrity and security in the global research ecosystem with a presentation by Dr. Carthage Smith from OECD, the Science and Technology and Innovation Directorate. And then we'll hear about challenges of general artificial intelligence for research integrity by Tomáš Foltýnek from Masaryk University. And Tomáš Foltýnek is also the president of the European Network for Academic Integrity. And then we'll have, and I'll present her later, we'll have the closing keynote with messages to take home, but more on that later. So I think now we have to move on. Thank you for the question and the answer. We have to move on to our second speaker, Tomáš Foltýnek. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks all of you for staying. It's like Friday late afternoon, so you have to be really brave champions of research integrity, staying till the end of the conference. So my talk will be about challenges of generative artificial intelligence for research integrity, which is a topic that have been discussed a couple of times at this conference. And even though after the ChatGPT was released some 9 months or almost a year ago, it not came out of the blue. The advances in generative artificial intelligence have been here for some time, and also other AI tools are being released into basically all areas of human activity. Some of them can be used in both ways, in good ways. Some of them can be used in evil ways, but most of them can be used in both ways. And it is basically up to the users how they use these tools. They are multipliers of human abilities. As European Network for Academic Integrity, we 1 year ago already organized a webinar on artificial intelligence and academic integrity, where Thomas Lancaster pointed out several challenges that these artificial intelligence tools have for especially student assessment. And 2 months later, ChatGPT was released, and it really shows the concerns among academics, not only from the educational point of view, but also from the research point of view. So it's important to know that it is not only about text, it's about generation of any kind of context. AI tools can generate images, art, music, programming codes, and we have to deal with it. And it is almost impossible to distinguish whether particular artifact was produced by a human or by AI. And these have consequences both in education and also in science. Within European Network for Academic Integrity, we published a recommendation on ethical use of AI in education. And the position of the recommendation is that AI does not bring any threats that are new in principle. It just makes currently existing threats and challenges more visible and more accessible to those who want to take any unfair advantage out of them. And it's not only me, not only NI who think this. I will refer to the paper which was published even before the NI recommendation. The title is "Using AI to Write Scholarly Publications." I'm pretty sure that you know these names. Muhammad Hossaini, Lisa Rasmussen, and David Resnick are experts in their area. So it was published in the journal Accountability in Research. And they identified some threats. First, it's incorrect or irrelevant answers. Everyone who experimented with ChatGPT knows that it just keeps producing the words that are probable in given context, no matter if they are correct or not. So it brings challenges to the check of correctness and accountability of authors. And also the other area is publication integrity. So what should be disclosed, what should be acknowledged, what the authors should acknowledge as a usage of AI or NLP systems. And of course, yeah, it is the generative tool, so you can generate some data and potentially fabricate or falsify data. I took the particular recommendations from the paper of Hosseini, Rasmussen, and Resnick with relation to incorrect or relevant answers. They say that any section of a manuscript written by an NLP system should be checked by a domain expert for accuracy, bias, relevance, and reasoning. But what if we take away this passage by NLP system? Like any section of a manuscript should be checked by a domain expert for accuracy, bias, relevance, and reasoning. That's true. That's why we have reviewers here, and artificial intelligence doesn't bring any new threat to this area. If a section of a manuscript written by an NLP system contains error, authors should be held accountable. Yeah, authors should be held accountable for any error in any section of a manuscript, no matter if it is written by themselves or an AI system. So again, nothing new in principle. When it comes to research or publication integrity, researchers should not use NLP system to fabricate empirical data or falsify existing data. Well, researchers should not fabricate or falsify data. I bet everyone in this room would sign this. Yeah? No matter if there is an assistance of NLP system or not. So I, of course, acknowledge that these tools make fabrication or falsification easier, that these tools make writing of the texts easier, but the threats that are associated with using of these systems are not new in principle. What might be new here is the question of publication integrity, the question of acknowledgement and the disclosure of using these systems. It's again the recommendation of these three authors that researchers should disclose the use of such systems to indicate which parts of text were written or co-written by NLP system. And whenever the NLP system impact content, this should be disclosed. But this is, again, something that we are used to work with, like what a contribution of someone which does not qualify for authorship. This is something that we should put into the acknowledgement. And now the question is if we can apply the contribution of someone or the rules that applies to contribution of someone, if they're applicable also to the contribution of something. Yeah, this AI tools that are here. Yeah, if you do not acknowledge someone, this person may complain and ask you to add him or her. The AI system would not do that, probably, at least this time. Yeah, but basically we are still in principle in the same area. But now I will move to the European Network for Academic Integrity's recommendations for ethical use in education, because we were particularly interested in answering the question: what is acceptable tools? What is acceptable use of AI tools? Like basically, if it is authorized, so permitted by the teacher, and it is declared by the student, then it is okay. But we wanted to provide a guidance to the universities, like in what cases use of AI should constitute academic misconduct. Our definition of academic misconduct, taken from the NI glossary, is that is any action that undermines academic integrity and may result in an unfair academic advantage or disadvantage for any member of academic community. The question is if using of AI tools brings any unfair advantage, because it's publicly available, anyone can use it, so like why consider it as unfair advantage? So what we did, we augmented our definition of contract cheating and came up with a new term, which is unauthorized content generation. And this term is now added to the NI glossary, and it's production of academic work in whole or part for academic credit, progression, or award, whether payment or other favor is involved, so it still covers the contract cheating, paper mills, essay mills, and stuff like that, using unapproved or undeclared human or technological assistance. So still staying in the educational context, if the student uses an AI tool to produce, let's say, an essay or thesis, and this was unauthorized or undeclared, it constitutes academic misconduct. And then we are getting to the question which applies both to education and to research. So what should be acknowledged, and where is the borderline, and how it should be acknowledged? The NI recommendation puts the division line between what influences the content and what influences just the form. So everything that influences the content or generate the ideas should be acknowledged. So in different forms, it depends on the area, on the context, and so on. But whatever influence just the form is generally acceptable, and may or may not be acknowledged. It is not really obligatory. But still, the responsibility stays with the author. So with the human, it's also the NI recommendations repeat what was already mentioned here, that the outputs can include biased, inaccurate, or incorrect content, and the responsibility is not on the provider, but human user is responsible. So AI tool cannot be listed as co-author. I have heard this several times during the conference here. I believe that we are in agreement here. But now the question is, what happens if an AI tool discovers something new? It's not like happening yet, or at least massively, but we should be ready. We should be ready for that. And let me take a few examples from the history. And something similar already happened, like 50 years ago. Those who have background in mathematics or computer science may be familiar with the four-color theorem. Basically, it says that if you want to color the map in a way that adjacent regions have different colors, so you don't need more than 4 colors. This conjecture was formulated in the middle of 19th century, and it took more than 100 years before the proof actually appeared. And in that time, in 1976, a lot of mathematicians did not accept the proof, because the proof was significantly produced by the computer. These two guys, Kenneth Appel and Wolfgang Haken, they took the infinite number of potential maps, reduced them just to 1800 arrangements, and then employed computer to basically use brute force and prove that for each of these 1800 arrangements, we can find the coloring that will include any map also that contains this arrangement. So now the reviewers had to verify not the proof as such, as they have been used to, but the computer code that actually produced the proof. And it required some shift of the mindset. What is considered as a proof. Another example might be an AlphaGo and the Go game, which is in computer science normally considered as a benchmark of artificial intelligence, because the number of potential configuration is really high, more than the atoms in the universe. And what happened when the Google DeepMind programmed the computer? So they trained the neural network on the games that was played by humans, and then let it play it against itself. And in 2016, there was a match between AlphaGo and one of the expert players, Lee Sedol. And during that match, it turned out that AlphaGo discovered some new strategy. In the second game, it made the move that was completely unexpected, improbable that any human player would do that. Everybody thought it was a mistake, but it wasn't. Then the beauty of the move became clear later. Probability of the human expert making this move was 1 to 10,000. But 2 days later, in game 4, Lee Sedol did the same thing. It surprised AlphaGo by doing very improbable, beautiful but improbable move. Again, probability of human expert making this move was 1 to 10,000. And now, so it was kind of new strategy. And imagine that there is an interstellar journal of Go strategies, and they decide to publish it. Who should be the author and who should be acknowledged in this case? Should it be Lee Sedol, who basically prompted the AI system and let the strategy appear? I mean the author. Or should it be the DeepMind's the development team who programmed the computer, let it discover the strategy, and then just used Lee Sedol's expertise to reveal what was already there? We should be ready for that. And as we are running out of time, I just briefly present an analogy between the AlphaGo and current generative AI, because simple rules of Go they are simple, but the real world is much more complex. That computer was trained from the games that were well documented, publicly available. There were clear results. Now the current AI systems are trained from the data of internet, but are biased, and the quality is also less measurable, because in the Go game you can clearly measure it by the territory. Here only what users like, and the criteria are much more complex. So I end with the current challenges that are here: authorship and acknowledgement. Who should be authors? What should be acknowledged? Intellectual property rights. It's the huge topic that is unsolved now. And also trust. How can we trust the results produced by AI, if they are correct or not? So I know that there are more questions than answers here in my presentation, but that's where AI currently is. And if there are any questions from audience, I will do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Sorry, I was looking the wrong way. Mads Kolik from Copenhagen University. Thank you very much for this. I agree with almost all of it. I would like to challenge you a little bit on this distinction between using AI for content and using it for form, because it seems that those two are not that as easily distinguished in practice, especially if you are during education, where part of what you are supposed to learn is to write, and in some cases, especially if you're studying a language, the form is the content. So could we do it in another way where we talk about relation to the purpose of the teaching, so that you can use AI for things that are not sort of core to the teaching, and would that be an alternative? Or what would you say to that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. For example, if you are using Grammarly as an example of an AI-based tool, like if it is your words and you just let it reformulate, it's still your ideas, but then it depends, like what kind of reformulation is still acceptable to say that it does not influence the content. And in educational context, I would very much echo what you said. What is the purpose of the task? And if you compare it to the calculator, so when the task of the student or of the pupil is to learn basic math, it's forbidden. Then you allow them to use calculator because you want to focus on higher level of mathematical applications. And the same for AI here. If the purpose of the task is to train or prove the ability of academic writing, then it should be forbidden. But later it may increase productivity. So I think that this is applicable also to the science. Like, what is the purpose of having that scientific paper? What is its contribution to the society? What benefit does it bring? And if the use of AI does not harm this contribution to the society, I would say it's okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Marilisa Parder, Center for Ethics, University of Tartu. As you ended your presentation, you said that there are more questions than you have answers, or we have answers at the moment, and there are AIs raising a lot of questions to research integrity. What is your view on how fast will things be changing, let's say, in next year, next 5 years, and are you rather optimistic or pessimistic about the changes being the milestones next to us? So.
I think that the changes will be faster than we think. Like this match between AlphaGo and Lisedo like came 10 years earlier than it was in general expected. So the advances will be really, really fast. But I'm optimistic. Like in general, I think that the technology has huge potential to be used for the benefits of the society, but we just may need to find the ways how to use that. And as I said, the threats are not new in principle. Yeah? We have been talking about these kind of threats for years, and they are pretty well documented, and there are proposals how to mitigate these threats. So it's about implementation of these recommendations into practice.
So on this optimism note, we move to the last speaker. We are very lucky to listen to the closing keynote, Messages to Take Home, by Maura Hiney, adjunct professor for research integrity at University College Dublin, and also the chair of the ALEA Permanent Working Group on Science and Ethics. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. This was a really easy task, I have to say. It wasn't. Okay, so in thinking about how to present, I suppose, the broader outputs of this conference, I was thinking about what are we actually trying to achieve as a research integrity and research ethics community, but also what are the problems we're trying to solve. So there's both the positive and the negative. So, unfortunately, the problem we're, I suppose, trying to solve is a wicked problem. you know, and definitely research integrity fits within the definition of a wicked problem. It has no obvious solution. It hasn't got a singular cause. You know, you solve one problem and another one crops up somewhere else. There are lots of unintended consequences and so on. But that isn't a reason to despair. I think that we need to celebrate the achievements that we have. And there were lots of really nice achievements at this conference. Sometimes this task may be overwhelming, but I love that quote of Albert Camus, the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. So in working to try and tackle this wicked problem, I think that we're all of us expanding as human beings, as academics, as researchers. In terms of the achievements that emerged at this particular conference, well, obviously there was the European Code of Conduct, was kind of semi-launched here, if you like. We also had this conference, which was fantastic. It's the second one and just fabulously well organised. And thank you so much to the hosts for that. We had the RIPE bulletin launched by ENRIO, and we also had the launch of a really lovely handbook on whistleblower protection. So those are things to really celebrate. But if it's a wicked problem, sorry now, it's huge. So I suppose the question then is, how do you eat the elephant? Well, of course, the answer that everybody knows this is you eat the elephant one bite at a time, because that's the only thing you can do. And I think that there were some really interesting bites presented at this conference. So back to our poor little elephant, what exactly were we biting out of this elephant? Well, I think trust was a huge topic at this conference. It emerged in many, many different ways around how we can trust each other, how the public can trust us, how policymakers can trust us, and so on and so forth. So it was a really, I think for me, jumped out as a really key theme from the conference. Another one, of course, that has been on the go for a long time, but still isn't quite solved, is the whole training and awareness issue. So we've got some fantastic materials, we've got some fantastic methodologies, but we've still got a way to go with this. It's still a little bit fragmented, but there were some really lovely examples provided at this conference. We've got the importance of mentoring, and there were a couple of very nice presentations on that. We have the whole issue of quality and excellence and how that links to research integrity, because sometimes in a way the excellence and research integrity are almost seen as separate things. So there was some very nice discussion about that. We naturally talked about research assessment, because that's so linked now, I think, to the future of research integrity. Openness and transparency were very important topics as well in this conference. I mean, that was both around the openness of how we deal with each other, but also about how we disseminate our results and how we communicate with the public, and so on and so forth. Policy was a big topic, and it's really, the question was being asked, can policy really have an impact? And if it can, how can it have an impact? How can you implement it? So there was a really nice workshop on that. Incentives, what is it that will incentivize people? So when you're talking to the research community, how can you make them accept that being good researchers, following good practice, is actually to their benefit? Sometimes that link isn't necessarily made, and people feel that we're just simply being bureaucratic, but that's a really important, I think, one for universities and research institutes to consider as we go along, and it's very much linked to assessment, so the two cannot be separated. Communication, again, there were some really nice presentations around communication and dissemination, and also a lot of discussion around you know, what are our responsibilities as researchers in terms of communicating, especially to the public, but not just to the public, to everybody else as well. Data, the new gold. So there were some lovely presentations around data and how we can make data open and in what situations shouldn't we make data open, and how can we protect the data and protect misinterpretation and misappropriation of data. And to a certain extent, I think that your discussion about security fits there very much as well. I didn't mention security because I'd already done the presentation by the time that happened, but I think thinking about the security of our data as well and how it's actually used is really important. And of course, then there was quite a lot of talk about institutional structures and how can institutions support research integrity practices through the development of a healthy culture, but also in terms of putting in place infrastructures. So, you know, that they have in place strong policies, good research offices, some way for people to actually archive and manage their data. So I think it's coming to us, and some people are further on than this, but we definitely need to keep talking about the institutional structures that support research integrity. And finally, I think there was a lot of conversation about publication practices, changes in publication practices, open peer review, preprints, pre-registration, etc., and the influence that may have on good research practices, and be they positive or negative. So I think overall, what's very clear is that we really are moving to a research ecosystem. It's not just about research culture. I think that we're beginning to realize that everything is linked, that you can't just talk about one thing in isolation. Absolutely everything is linked. And that's very difficult if you're trying to work in one area to try and keep the links going to others. And somebody even suggested, if you remember in the first talk, that we think about the products we use in our research and how they were actually generated. I think most people's heads would explode if they had to go back that far. But I think nonetheless, we do have to start thinking in broader terms around where research integrity and research ethics fit in that broader ecosystem. So I suppose my final comment is no one can do this alone. So I really think we need to redouble our efforts to collectively eat that elephant, because it'll be so much quicker if we do. So thank you very much. Oh, got to get a plug in for the 8th World Conference, or Lex will kill me. So obviously it's next year. I'm really hoping that I'm going to see you there. And this slide is really for Stephanie to speak through. There you go.
These very inspiring closing words. So on behalf of the office, I wanted to say that it has been a pleasure and an honor to host, together with Sorbonne University, the second edition of ENRIO Congress. Many thanks to the participants for the quality and the presentation and discussion. This will feed us at the office in many respects. Thank you again to Sorbonne University and its staff. I think everything ran very smoothly, so it's very appreciable. And last but not least, a very warm thank you to my collaborator at office as the director of office, Bati, I don't know if here you are. Thank you very much. Dora Chertier, she's not here anymore. Nathalie Voarino, thank you, Nathalie. Hélène Lemeur, thank you, Hélène. And Carole Chapin, who has been the backbone of all this. Dear Carole, the success of this Congress owes you so much. Thank you very much. And the floor is yours for the final words, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you to all of you for the applause. Of course, it was a collective effort. So from the whole team of office, it has been said, and ENRIO's members, the program committee, but not only the program committee, member of the board, other members of ENRIO in collective meetings. We just had so many discussions about the Congress. Thanks a lot as well to all members from the great team from Sorbonne University's Conference Center, They are here all around, making sure that everything is working well. The team of PREMC for technical and logistic support, our colleagues from HCS who came to help during these 2 days. And again, many thanks to our amazing chairs, speakers, and last but not least, online and on-site amazing audience. Thank you very much. Goodbye and see you soon.